What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down Keenan Allen and his releases versus press. We're going to talk about a couple different variations of releases that you guys can do to create some separation, kind of the technique he decides behind these releases. We're going to mainly talk about a slide release, closing the gap, and then a split release off the line of scrimmage, okay? So let's get started. And guys, if you want access to a video where you get access to all wide receiver press releases that you can use, the situations to use them, and game film examples, check out that link in the description that says all wide receiver press releases. Hope to get you guys on that video soon. Let's get started. So first thing we're going to be looking at is this split release here. So he's just going to be splitting. The goal of this is to kind of freeze this DB, and then we got to really make sure that I accelerate off this line. So I kind of just change the tempo and split, and then I burst upfield, right? This is a common release you see by Antonio Brown. He's one of the greats at this release. Let's watch it again one more time. So he comes here, split, and then just go and push up vertical. And I think the main thing I want to focus on here is how fast he is off the line of scrimmage, right? Because anybody can split, right? But what a lot of people do is when they split here, they lose this pad level. They'll split their feet, and then they won't have the weight on the inside arch of their feet. They're not going to be trying to drive out, and they're going to pick their chest up, and they split, and they're leaning back. And then they have to go around rather than forward, right? Anytime we make a release off the line, right, I want to freeze him, right? I want to get this DB to his feet to stop, and then I want to leave him. And I want to push up full speed. I wouldn't say, well, not really any time, but anytime we're working like a split release or maybe kind of a hesitation release, I want to freeze him, then leave him, okay? So he comes off the line of scrimmage here, he freezes him, and then you see when he bursts up vertical, he's really pushing and driving off of this outside leg, right? He wants to take an inside release, so that's the leg he's going to be driving off of, and he wants to drive off that inside arch to really push him and to really drive him to the inside here, okay? And that's what it is. He gets upfield, and you see his pad level. That's the thing off the line of scrimmage, guys. So many people come off the line, and they're nice and tall. They pick this chest up. They're nice and slow. They're cruising, right? But if I keep my chest down, I pump my arms, and I continue to push out vertical, I continue to have my chest down and run, that's going to get you a lot of separation. It's going to get you a lot of space, because at the end of the day, we just got to get up into this route, right? His goal when we're in press or they're trying to jam, or they're in a catch technique, whatever it is, they're trying to screw up the timing with the quarterback. They want to disrupt the timing. That's why they call it jam in the first place, right? They want to jam up the timing. But if we can get off this thing and not screw up the timing with my quarterback, because believe me, the quarterback knows we got to get off press. He's going to buy a little time back there. That's why they work all those pocket movement drills. That's why they drift around. So we just got to understand that I got to get up and I got to get to that spot that he needs me in the time he needs me to do it. So I don't need to completely break this guy's ankles off the line, but I got to make sure that I'm bursting upfield. I got to make sure I'm pumping my arms, and I got to make sure I'm driving off the line of scrimmage to push up vertical. Let's watch it full speed again one more time. So freeze him, then leave him, and keep a great pad level, pump those arms, accelerate up to the depth of the route, and then make a catch on this ball. So now we're going to be talking about this release where he closes the gap with this rocker step, then gives him this little shake 1-2, and then pushes up vertical to get this DB to bite here, okay? So now, I think the DB's eyes got a little bit too far inside here. I think he's got to stay a little bit more disciplined with his eyes just to start off, but mainly we're going to be focusing on Allen's release here. So how is this DB playing this thing, right? Kind of head up in this catch technique. He's off maybe about 1-2. So what do we want to do as a receiver in this situation? I don't want to just try to run this route out here, right? And that's what a lot of people do, because a lot of people can do the footwork, but they can't put the release in action. They can't put the release in action in a game because they just don't know the situation when, right? They don't know what read they are. They don't understand. They don't have a high football IQ. Whatever it is, they want to make sure that you know the situations to use these releases. So when he's off like this, I want to come at him and close the gap, doing a chatter with my feet. They call it rocket steps. So close the gap, and we're attacking his midline, right? I want to attack his midline to get him on the defensive. You see how his base gets a little narrow, obviously in a back pedal here, and he starts doing these rocket steps. So what these rocket steps do is that just serves to let this DB know, okay, a break's coming. Now here's the thing as well too. This DB's giving up the inside very easily, so we can assume he's got safety help, linebacker help, whatever it is, right? So we can assume that. So if I was him, I'd be giving up the inside as well, right? I'd be playing the fade, but what gets this DB to shoot inside is Keenan Allen's pad level, right? Or where his upper half goes. So when he decides to go 1-2 and he closes the gap, look at how his upper half turns, right? And now that he turns his whole hips, he turns his whole shoulders, and that's what's going to get this DB to drive on this thing, right? Because look where he's looking. He's looking down here at these hips. So when I turn my hips here and I'm driving off of this leg and I'm really pushing and I get this leg to the inside, that's going to get this DB a little greedy, and he wants to drive on this thing, right? It's very tough. It's very tough playing defensive back. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. And obviously his technique could have been a little bit better, DB coaches know a lot more about that. But when we're coming off here and we give him this 1-2, I got to make sure that I'm selling this thing with my upper half. My upper half is separate from my lower half. My lower half, my weight's on the inside arch of my foot, so I could drive back up. And you see he's pushing here. You can see by his shin angle, that's really driving him out. We want to get him off his platform, and then we want to leave him. I want to continue to accelerate up, drive those arms. He knows he's got him beat, and be ready for this back shoulder. That's a great release by Keenan Allen, closing the gap, giving him a 1-2, very strategic. Let's watch it again. So rocket steps, 1-2. Upper half has got to move to the inside, get this DB to bite, then I burst upfield. All right, so now we're going to be talking about this slide, 1-2-3 move to get some separation. Ball was thrown a little bit behind him, but honestly, this is a pretty good release. Anytime we got to run a slant and where maybe you have a guy who's head up, we got a guy inside leverage and this catch. So when we work this slide, it's very important that we have a good range. So I think that's the main thing here, because a lot of people will work this slide release, right, where I slide and then you give them a left, right, left, as you can see. Now, what a lot of people will do here is they'll slide too far upfield. And how this DB can make that happen is by make this play not happen is by getting hands on you and knocking you off this release. But if we slide, and you see where Allen is, this is a great job staying at almost like a 45, where he's in a range where this DB's either got to sit and squat, which is what he does, or this DB has got to take these hands and come at him, and he's got to make a move, and I got to plan for that as well. So now, since he decided to squat because he's not going to come off balance and be just lunge at him to try to get hands, it's just like I'm playing basketball. I just got to give him a quick shake with my feet. So I slide here, good range, left, right, left. And you see how violent, it's very sudden, but you see how violent his upper half is. And if we could get this DB in a situation where he can't get hands because of my range and my upper half gets him to hesitate just a little bit here, and I do my job of accelerating out. The most important thing on this slide release is your acceleration, because a lot of guys will work this slide. They'll completely get this DB to turn his hips, right? He just turned a little bit and we're still able to get some separation. But here, ripping this left arm and accelerating up on this slant is one of the more important things, because when you work this slide, you're slowing down the tempo, right? You're changing up the tempo on this DB rather than coming off fast and doing like maybe a diamond or like something quick to the outside, like a triple step, whatever it is. You're slowing the pace down. So the timing's a little bit slower. So we got to really make sure that I accelerate out, but also because if we freeze him, we got to leave him, right? So I freeze him here and I got to leave him. And you see how fast he's able to accelerate up. He's driving off this outside leg, off the inside arch. He rips those arms through. And if this ball goes in front of him here, that's a lot of space. DB's trailing. This ball was a little bit thrown behind him. Makes a great catch. But that's one of those things about that slide release. We got to make sure we accelerate out. We're going to look at another example in a second. So it comes off here. Slide, 1, 2, 3. Slide, 1, 2, 3. Stay in that good range. So now this next clip here in slow-mo is going to be a great example of how we can really emphasize like a slide release with almost more of a heavy indicator, right? Ball was thrown a little bit behind him again here. But when we come off, right, so you see there's a perfect example of this. DB, head up, right, squatted stance, and this catch technique wants us to come at him, get hands, and try to wall us to the sideline, right? So when we come off, you see Allen does a pretty good job of staying in a good range with this DB, right? He's not coming straight at him here when he works this slide release, kind of this patient release. He's sliding to the outside, 1, 2, 3 on the third step. So you see how he's here. We're going to watch it again. So slide, left, right, left. And I want you to see again, look how much his upper half is turning. This DB opens up that gate a little bit too soon, right? I think we could stay disciplined here, but it's tough to stay disciplined because if we work this slide release, right, and this DB tries to shuffle with us, that's why range is so important here, right? Because they want to shuffle with us and stay disciplined. They're taught not to open up their hips too soon, right? But if he stays here and stays square and tries to shuffle with us, he's going to be shuffling outside because I worked him outside. There comes a point where a DB has to turn his hips, right? But if I stay in a good range, it's very hard for them because they want to shuffle with us, then maybe get hands, right? But if they shuffle, and they stay square with us, and then they give up all this space to the inside, right? If they stay square and shuffle. But if I stay in a good range and I take the right angle off the line of scrimmage, he almost has to turn his hips just a little bit slightly because there comes a point where he has to turn those hips. And if I stay in that range where he can't get hands, it's very tough for him to kind of decide. So we want to make him think. We want to get in his head. We want to make him think about it because we get him to think we should win. And then he comes off here and goes 1, 2, 3. Turns his whole upper half turns, get this DB to bite, right? Because that's where he's watching. You look where his eyes are on those hips. So if I could turn my hip and sell like I'm just going 1, 2 and then pushing it like I'm going slide, left, right, and try to get him to think, okay, he's just going to run a vertical, but I turn my whole body on this third step, get him to turn those hips, and then I got to make sure, again, I accelerate out, I pump my arms out of this break, and continue to get space from this guy, okay? It's a great example of using range, of really putting this DB in a position where, hey, he's really doesn't have much of a choice here, right? Now, let's say the situation calls, you're the first read, and you're just going to take a one-step slant and go, probably not going to work this, right? Knowing the situation and when to work this, right? Maybe this is a play where, like, we're reading a linebacker from a quarterback perspective, and we got double slant or something like that, slant bubble, whatever it is, right? And we're coming off, and we know we got a little bit of time because we got to work that. We got to let this quarterback go through his progressions. That's the time I would work this. Let's watch it again one more time. So coming off here, stay in a good range. 1, 2, 3. Violent upper half. Get this DB to open up those hips and then accelerate out. Great route here by Keenan Allen. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments. I'll make sure to get back to you as soon as possible. And, guys, again, if you want a video with all of the wide receiver press releases you guys can do to create separation, when to use them, the exact situation I break it down, and then game film examples, check out that link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.